You know, just to pick up on what Andrea was saying, I've been watching all of this, and you think about what got Joe Biden into this race, and how, you know, everyone in Washington has looked at this president. He has said repeatedly that the events in Charlottesville and the president's unwillingness to be very clear on matters of race are what got him into this in the beginning, that he was something of a reluctant candidate, that his son Beau should have been the one who was running here. I mean, he has been trying, as Andrea said, to find his way into this office for decades. And that the relationships that he did build through the roles that he had in the Senate, I think, are going to drive us going forward.
You know, there's a mandate. There is a mandate here. And there's going to be a fight about what it is. But I'll tell you what the American people's mandate is. Heal the nation. That's Joe Biden's mandate. That's the message that was sent. Heal the nation. It's why he ran. And you know what? That is why he won.
And in those closing days, Joe Biden would often say, this is a fight for the soul of the nation. And the nation has spoken. If you're just tuning in, NBC News projects that Joe Biden will be the 46th president of the United States. Let's go to Kristen Welker. She's at Biden headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware. Kristen, good morning.
Savannah and Lester, good morning to both of you on this historic day. The Biden campaign has been elated since yesterday when Joe Biden pulled ahead in Pennsylvania, and now there is cause for real celebration. We are out to the campaign for reaction, none yet, but I can tell you that they have been planning for the vice president to address the nation. They have been confident that this was the news that is coming, and so what will his message be? It speaks to some of those key points that Andrea and Casey just talked about. Biden knows that his first and biggest challenge is going to be to try to speak to this entire nation, to all of those people who voted for President Trump, to try to unify the country. And so I am told that's going to be the theme of his message when he does, in fact, address the nation. That could happen as early as this evening. He will talk about the fact that he sees himself as a president of the entire nation and not just blue states, the people who voted for him. And that's really been a theme that has governed much of his campaign. It's something we've heard quite a lot about in these closing days. When you look at Pennsylvania, the state that delivered him this victory, where did he spend most of his time campaigning in the closing days of this campaign? It was Pennsylvania, 14 stops in all, more than any other state. Why? Because he knew that this could be the state that could be make or break for him. And so it was, and so it is. And that is why on the final day of this campaign, he visited Scranton, the place where he was born. He visited Philadelphia to encourage African American voters to turn out in force. They didn't in big enough numbers in 2016. And so we wait for a reaction from the Biden campaign on what is undoubtedly a day of celebration.
And he had other paths to get to that number, but yes, Pennsylvania put him over the top. Talk about there's so much history in all this. Kamala Harris to become the first woman of color as vice president of the United States.
It's an historic day for that reason as well. Senator Kamala Harris becoming the first black woman to serve as vice president-elect. And so we are told that when Biden addresses the nation, if that does in fact happen this evening or later on today, she will be there with him. She will also make remarks. And so she will speak to the historic nature of this moment. And as you all were talking about there at the desk, Biden really framed this campaign as a fight for the heart and soul of the nation. And she certainly was a part of that messaging, that this is a new moment in American history, and they were hoping that would resonate.
Let's go to Andrea Mitchell, who, of course, has been covering politics. Andrea, it's going back to the 80s. There have been female vice presidential candidates. Never has there been a female vice president, and the first person of color to be elected vice president of the United States.
And it's so extraordinary when we think that the first woman was on the ticket in 1984, and now to see, and of course, having covered Hillary Clinton for decades, as I did, running for president, but to see the first woman vice president and the first person of color, the first woman of color, as Kristen was just saying, it is overwhelming in a way to think of the barriers that have been broken, not only the glass ceiling, but in an era of such a racial reckoning in the United States, to have a person of color in the vice presidency. Having watched Walter Mondale, the first vice president who was really consequential in his partnership with Jimmy Carter, depends on whether Joe Biden lives up to his promise to have that partnership with Kamala Harris that he enjoyed with Barack Obama. There were, of course, tensions with Obama and Biden and policy disagreements along the way, but it is absolutely true that they were partners in anything. And
he
then,
talked about being the last person in the room when decisions were made with Obama.
And they really bonded through their Biden's granddaughter and, of course, the president's daughter, who were basketball teammates.
They were classmates.
Civil friends.
Yes, at school.
And then, parent-teacher conferences that they did together. And also, of course, through the illness and the death of Beau Biden, when the President Obama, reached out to the vice president and offered to pay his mortgage so he wouldn't have to lose his house paying the medical bills. All of that really is part of the character of Joe Biden. And I think that for any tensions that might have existed during that first debate and any presidential ambitions that she clearly has, as with the oldest elected president, she is obviously the front runner for any future, Democratic leader. And that's going to be inevitable. They're both politicians. They're both ambitious.
We're not allowed to talk about the next election.
I was just going to say, I would like to let's certify this one.
But let me just say that the point I'm trying to make is that they are going to be full partners, I believe, in this project.
Well, they have to be. I mean, I would just say this. If they're not, they're going to have some governing challenges. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Joe Biden's going to be taking office in a moment of history where we're, as a country, we're extraordinarily divided and we're sort of hurt, pained, whatever metaphor you want to come. We need to heal the nation both figuratively and literally with COVID. But I would guess that the closest corollary we have is probably 76. Jimmy Carter comes in. We were an extraordinarily divided nation. And Joe Biden is almost this combination of Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford. He's got the political he's got the political acumen of a Jerry Ford who understood Washington, the empathy and honesty and integrity and character of a Jimmy Carter. And so what Joe Biden, and I think this is what will be interesting to watch, this partnership. On one hand, Biden comes in, he's here to be a healer, and he's also the inside guy. Kamala Harris as a partner, she's there to sort of keep the progressives and sort of, the outside activists also, in a governing partnership. It's going to be interesting. If it's effective, that's what it'll look like. If it's ineffective, then we'll see the results later. She's also a bridge
to a new generation, I think, inside the Republican Party. You think of the arc of history that Joe Biden has seen in his political career, but we are, in fact, moving potentially forward, and he needs someone to help him do that.
Well, let's find out what the Trump White House is saying this morning. We've got Hallie Jackson on duty. I was just glancing at the popular vote. Yes, NBC News has projected that Joe Biden has won the election, but 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump, 74 million approximately for Joe Biden. Where is the White House on this call, and where is the president right now?
Physically, Savannah, he is not here at the White House. President Trump, right now, as this race is being called by NBC News, is at his golf course in Virginia. This is not the rebuke of Trumpism that some of the president's critics had hoped, but it is a defeat for the president. And it is one that over the last 24 hours, aides, advisors, and other sources that I've talked to have come to a realization about. I believe you're looking at some video of the president in the motorcade on the way to that golf course earlier today. The president, even as recently as within the last hour, has been defiant about this election's results, tweeting that he won this election. He clearly has not. That is not the case either with the popular vote or, of course, with now that 270 electoral college vote threshold. A tweet so misleading and incorrect that Twitter again slapped a warning label on it, basically hiding it to prevent it from spreading further. You're taking a look now at the scene that is just outside the White House where I am, and it is people in Black Lives Matter Plaza. That's what it's called here in Washington. It's just outside the fencing that's been put up at the park in front of the White House. That crowd has been getting bigger, and when the race was called, there was a cheer that erupted from that plaza. I can tell you that as I departed here at, I don't know, midnight last night, they were blasting news reports of the race. There, folks outside in D.C. are listening to the returns, and they have been for the last day or so. Elsewhere in D.C.,
hanging out at the back of the car. Lots of people celebrating. Let's see if we can get these Biden-Harris people to talk to us as well. Hi. We're live on Sky News at the moment. I wondered if you could offer us a thought on the news that you've just heard.
We're very excited.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. How did you hear the news? Come talk to us. Come talk to us. We're live on Sky News at the moment from England. Yeah. How did you hear the news?
Just TV.
Yeah. Watching TV.
Yeah.
Came over here after I heard the news. Yeah. Awesome news.
It seemed to take a long time.
Yeah.
It did take a long time.
Forever, but it was worth it.
And they got it right, so that's what matters.
Count the votes, got it right in.
Keep counting them, Bill, and by more, you know?
It's going to be my birthday present.
Yeah.
Your birthday. It's going to be tricky to reunite the country, do you think?
You know, that's not for me to decide. I hope everyone just loves everyone. So I'm going to do my part, and I hope everyone follows suit.
How are you going to celebrate today?
Just enjoy it with DC. It's a happy city right now.
Yeah.
America's back.
Yeah.
Okay, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Thanks a lot. There's the flag I was telling you about, Paul, with his convertible. So we are, as I said, around about a kilometre or so away from the White House. Pretty tricky to get there, as you know, Adam, at the moment. A lot of downtown Washington is boarded up. So the people of Washington have decided to be able to celebrate by coming along Constitution Avenue instead. There had been extreme concern that there would be an awful lot of demonstrations here. There were some in the summer, as you know, not least with the Black Lives Matter demonstration that came to Washington. For now, certainly, it seems as though people are celebrating. Let's just chat to another couple of people before we hand back to you. Perhaps these three lovely people who are coming this way. Excuse me, I'm so sorry to bother you. Live on Sky News at the moment. I just wondered if you could offer your view on the news.
No. Hey, tell the world the war is over. The Russian occupation of the United States is finally over. And let the reconstruction of America begin. For real. Make America great again. Suck it, bitches.
Okay, maybe not that bit at the end. I can only apologise for some of the terminology. Everybody expresses their joy in different ways, of course. But certainly, as you can see from the people here along the Mall, I'm just going to leave these images with you of just how people are celebrating the news that it is President Biden-elect.
Kay Burley, thank you very much indeed. Well, the news of the hour, as you might have worked out, is that Joe Biden has been declared the president-elect. He will form an administration in January next year. He's already started his transition, preparing the new team that will run America from next year. And the result came with the decision that Pennsylvania, with its 20 electoral votes, is going to go for Joe Biden. Counting still going on there. And that took Joe Biden over the top, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, his vice presidential running mate, over the top with 273 votes in the Electoral College, a majority. No doubt now he will be confirmed, although we are seeing from President Trump's team legal complaints being raised. I'm not sure they've yet reached the level of formal legal challenges to the results. As for the president himself, he's playing golf on one of his golf courses. This one is in Sterling, Virginia. Well, let's go now to our correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, who's also out and about in downtown Washington, D.C.
Hi, Adam. Yes, I'm just round the corner from the White House, where there are thousands of people filling the street. Problem is, we can't get down there at the moment because they blocked the signal. But you can see at the end of our shot, a Donald Trump balloon is being floated, holding two balloons in his hand, saying, "Lose, lose." People are shouting, "Give our White House back." A really celebratory mood down there, with people really just trying to express in public their opinion. Now they've finally got a result in the election. And then behind me here is a separate protest. This was a Black Lives Matter protest that was going on. People here, a spontaneous cheer went up when they heard that news that Joe Biden is the president-elect. People were crying, people saying, you know, we couldn't cope with 4 more years. Let's speak to Omarosa, who's been with Sky throughout this. Oma, thank you so much for making some more time for us. What does this mean to you?
You know, I think what you're witnessing is a nation that has finally been able to kind of breathe a sigh of relief that dignity will be restored to the White House. You see people, children out here, they have their children, they're cheering, they've got their families because they want to celebrate the best of America and not continue to see the division that we've seen for the last 4 years.
You know Donald Trump, you've worked for him, with him. How do you think he'll be taking this news personally? We've seen his statements, but how do you think he'll be feeling?
You know, Donald Trump is back at his golf course where he spent almost 300 plus days during his presidency. And it's just kind of a buttoning up of what his presidency means. For Donald Trump, he is probably pouting. He's very disappointed. And he's probably not a pleasant person to be around. When he gets like this, he's yelling, he's screaming, he's short, his temper is very high. But I'm certain that he'll be surrounded by people telling him how awesome he is and how he was cheated from the presidency.
And they've already said that they're going to move forward with some legal action on Monday. What do you think is coming down the track?
I have to tell you, I lived through Bush v. Gore. I used to be an aide for Vice President Al Gore, and that process took 36 days. And it was such a strain on this country. I can't imagine the nation going through that again. Litigation, court cases, all the way up to the Supreme Court. I don't understand why Donald Trump would want to put the American people through something like that again.
Let's just talk about Trump's supporters because, okay, Donald Trump has lost this election, but millions and millions, a record number of Americans went out to support him. How will they be feeling? How will you be able to reunite America?
You know, 66 million people voted for Donald Trump. That means that this country certainly is divided, but as a true leader, Joe Biden has that onus to unite the country, to find a way to heal the wounds that separated us. And he's such a good guy, and he knows how to lead properly without demeaning, being mean, disregarding people, calling names. And I think the nation will get behind that because he is honest, he is straightforward, and he has the experience to lead this country out of this very dark period.
The Democrats misread the mood of the country in 2016, which led to Donald Trump winning the election, even if he didn't win the popular vote. What does Joe Biden need to do to make sure that voices aren't being forgotten in areas which now have turned to Donald Trump?
The first thing Donald Trump has to do is to acknowledge the death and suffering that's going on in this country right now. Just today, there was an announcement about the high record number of cases of COVID. That is priority. Americans are dying every day because of the mismanagement of the COVID-19 pandemic. The first thing he has to do is get control of that, issue a nationwide mask mandate, put lockdowns in place if he needs to. If he does that, you will see a nation saying, here's somebody that takes us seriously, who wants to heal us, who wants to lead us. The second thing he has to do is come out with his policy plans. The first 100 days of his administration is going to be key, putting together a cabinet that is experienced and knows how to lead in difficult times.
Let's talk about Kamala Harris. How are you feeling about that?
You know, she is a graduate of the university that I attended, Howard University, and like so many African Americans and women of color, I am filled with so much pride, not just to know her, but to know what she's about and what she stands for. Right now, African Americans all over this country are celebrating the historic nature of the fact that she will be the first woman, the first African American woman, the first Indian American, the first graduate of a historically black college and university.
For you, as a woman of color, what are the main things, apart from obviously coronavirus, the economy, but what are the main things that you would like the new administration to focus on?
We've seen protests around the world because of the George Floyd case. We've seen police brutality. We've seen the gutting of the civil rights bill. We have seen everything that we as African Americans are concerned about disregarded and stumped on. What we would like to see as a community is just someone who doesn't look at us and say, you're less than, you're not really a human, I don't have to listen to you, but someone who will listen and who will understand, because Kamala Harris is a woman who's been through a great deal, but now she is about to make history and be sworn in as the first woman and the first woman of color to serve as Vice President of the United States.
Finally, Donald Trump has fired a lot of people in his time. You were part of The Apprentice. What would your message be to him today?
I would say, Donald, enough is enough. End the lawsuits. Concede with some grace and bring the country together. He has 2 months to rule for the rest of this time to serve. And it is a chance to show people that there is a good side of Donald Trump. I saw that 17 years ago. That's why he was my friend for so long. But he's changed, and it's time for him to show the better side of Donald, a more compassionate side who wants to do the right thing.
Do you think there's any chance he'll concede?
There is no chance whatsoever that Donald Trump will concede. He will wait until every one of the states certify their results, and then maybe then he will accept that he no longer will serve in the White House.
Omarosa, thank you. You've been so generous with your time. just show you a bit more about what's going on. Bear with us in case the signal goes. You can see people here coming back from various protests. They were expecting to come out today to say, let our votes count, to say Biden's won it. And then midway through, Biden was announced as the president-elect. See people up on the stage there. Voters decided rally. Also the same message. See people around here as well, hugging each other, celebrating. We've seen shouts of joy, some spontaneous singing. I saw a pastor on the other side of the square there giving some sort of impromptu sermon about how America had decided in the right way. But we have to remember that although today Joe Biden has become the president-elect, he's been named the president-elect, millions and millions of people across this country supported Donald Trump. They felt like for the 4 years that he was in office that he spoke for them and that he listened to them. And I've been speaking to those people over the past couple of weeks, and many of them will be absolutely heartbroken by this news. They'll be worried that their voices are going to get lost, and more importantly, they will be questioning the validity of this result. Despite the fact there is no evidence that anything underhand has been happening, they will be questioning whether these results can stand. So while we're watching the celebrations here, spare a thought, keep an eye on the other communities who maybe aren't celebrating, who are wondering about their futures and wondering whether their voice has been ignored. So today, though, in Washington, D.C., where we are, this is a party atmosphere.
Siobhan, thank you very much indeed. Well, celebrations breaking out, particularly in those areas like Washington, D.C., which cast their votes heavily for Joe Biden. Good evening. It's 6 p.m. in the UK, 1 p.m. here in Washington, D.C. This is Sky News Live as America tells Donald Trump, you're fired. Joe Biden has won the election. The former vice president is now the president-elect and the next leader of the United States. A defiant Donald Trump insists the election is not over and he'll go to court. But first, he's gone to the golf course. It has taken days to count the votes, but Pennsylvania was the state that took Joe Biden over 270 Electoral College delegates, along with America's first female vice president.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
We will have the very latest on what happens now that America has decided. Good evening from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. It has taken a while to get here, but this election is finally concluding. The Democratic nominee, Joe Biden, has won the White House with more votes than any president in United States history. In the past hour, he has tweeted to say, America, I'm honored that you have chosen me to lead our great country. The work ahead of us will be hard, but I promise you this. I will be a president for all Americans, whether you voted for me or not. I will keep the faith that you have placed in me. And Senator Kamala Harris, who becomes America's first female vice president and the first vice president of color, tweeted, this election is about so much more than Joe Biden or me. It's about the soul of America and our willingness to fight for it. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Let's get started. She also tweeted this video.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
Well, Cordelia Lynch is with me. Also, reaction coming in from British political leaders to Joe Biden's taking of the status of president-elect.
That's right. We have heard from Prime Minister Boris Johnson in a tweet. He says congratulations to Joe Biden on his election as President of the United States and to Kamala Harris on her historic achievement. The US is our most important ally, he says, and I look forward to working closely together on our shared priorities from climate change to trade and security. Adam, we've also heard from the Labour leader Keir Starmer. He says congratulations to Joe Biden on his election. He says he ran a campaign on the values that we in the United Kingdom share: decency, integrity, compassion, and strength.
But is it over? We know that President Donald Trump has gone to one of his golf courses in Virginia this afternoon, not for putting out statements and tweets saying, we all know why Joe Biden is rushing to falsely pose as the winner and why his media allies are trying so hard to help him. They don't want the truth to be exposed. The simple fact is this election is far from over. Joe Biden has not been certified as the winner of any states, let alone any of the highly contested states headed for mandatory recounts, or states where our campaign has valid and legitimate legal challenges that could determine the ultimate victor. In Pennsylvania, for example, our legal observers were not permitted meaningful access to watch the counting process. Legal votes decide who is president, not the news media. Beginning Monday, our campaign will start prosecuting our case in court to ensure election laws are fully upheld and the rightful winner is seated. The American people are entitled to an honest election. That means counting all legal ballots and not counting any illegal ballots. This is the only way to ensure the public has full confidence in our election. It remains shocking that the Biden campaign refuses to agree with this basic principle and wants ballots counted, even if they're fraudulent, manufactured, or cast by ineligible or deceased voters. Only a party engaged in wrongdoing would unlawfully keep observers out of the count room and then fight in the court to block their access out of the count room and then fight in the court to block their access. So what is Biden hiding? I will not rest until the American people have the honest vote count they deserve and that democracy demands. Well, as the president continues to play golf, it should be said that not a single one of those allegations has actually been backed up by any evidence so far. But the president is not conceding. That's what he's saying. So are we all making a terrible mistake saying Joe Biden's going to be the next president of the United States, Cordelia?
Look, the networks have made a calculation. They've looked at the metrics of the votes coming in and decided that Joe Biden has reached an insurmountable lead. In other words, there is no way that Donald Trump could claw this back. And central to that was winning the so-called Rust Belt, central to what they call here the blue wall that crumbled for Hillary Clinton in 2016 and that he has been able to successfully rebuild. It has been a protracted, slow process. Pennsylvania and many other states warned that it would be. They were dealing with an unprecedented volume of mail-in ballots. That's because of coronavirus restrictions this year, and those voters skewed heavily Democratic. We know, we were told to expect that those voting on the day of the election would be more predominantly Republican. Those voting in advance, those voting